My son handed me a trash bag with my clothes in it on Thanksgiving while his wife laughed. They wanted my room for her mom. They forgot one thing. I own the deed to the house. Asterisk. Tap that subscribe button on Wisdom and Wrath if you want to see how I destroyed their entire lives. Asterisk. My name is Eleanor. And if there is one thing 40 years in the cutthroat world of real estate development taught me, it is that you never show your hand until you are holding all the aces. I thought I had left that Shark Tank mentality behind when I retired to spend my golden years with my family. I was wrong. The sharks weren't in the boardroom anymore. They were sitting at my dining table, eating the turkey I paid for. Asterisk, it was a crisp November afternoon in upstate New York. The leaves were turning that burnt orange color I used to love. But looking back, everything about that day was a warning sign I chose to ignore. I pulled my vintage Mercedes into the driveway of the colonial estate I had purchased for my son, Brandon, and his wife Tiffany, 3 years ago. It was a wedding gift, but really it was my way of ensuring my grandchildren, Leo and Mia, grew up in a safe neighborhood. I had the guest cottage out back renovated specifically for my visits, but for the last 6 months, I had been staying in the main house's guest suite recovering from a hip replacement. Asterisk, I walked in, balancing a tray of my famous pecan pie and a bottle of Chateau Margaux. Grandma, Leo, my 8-year-old grandson, came barreling down the hallway. I braced myself, handing the wine to the side table just in time to catch him. Asterisk, easy there. Tiger! I laughed, kissing his forehead. Mia followed, hugging my leg. For a second, everything felt right. This was my legacy. This was my joy. Asterisk. Then Tiffany walked in. She was wearing a dress that cost more than most people's cars paid for by the supplementary credit card I allowed her to have for household emergencies. Her smile was tight, didn't reach her eyes. You know the look, like she was smelling something rotten but trying to be polite about it. Asterisk, hello? Eleanor, she said, not moving to hug me. You're early. Asterisk, it's Thanksgiving, Tiff. I live here, I said, confused, gesturing to the hallway leading to my suite. I just went to the bakery. Asterisk, right? She said, exchanging a glance with Brandon, who had just emerged from the kitchen. My son looked pale. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He was wiping his hands on a dish towel like he was trying to scrub off a stain that wouldn't go away. Asterisk, hey. Mom? Brandon mumbled, asterisk, is everything okay? I asked, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. The air in the house was heavy, suffocating. Asterisk, actually. We need to talk, Tiffany said, her voice sharp. Before the guests arrive? Asterisk, guests, asked. I thought it was just us. Asterisk? My mother is coming, Tiffany announced, puffing out her chest. Brenda, and since she's going to be staying for a while, quite a while actually, we need to make some adjustments. Asterisk, I felt a cold prickle on the back of my neck. What kind of adjustments? Asterisk, Tiffany crossed her arms. Mom needs the downstairs suite. Your suite. Her knees are bad and she can't do stairs. Asterisk, I blinked, trying to process the audacity. Tiffany, I just had a hip replacement. I can't do stairs either. And that suite was built to my specifications. It's where I live. Asterisk, well, that's the thing. Brandon finally spoke up, though his voice cracked. We think it's time you moved on? Asterisk, moved on. I repeated, my voice dropping an octave. Moved on to where? The afterlife? Asterisk, don't be dramatic, Eleanor. Tiffany snapped. We found a lovely assisted living facility in the next town over. It's quaint. We packed your essentials. The rest is in the garage. Asterisk, my heart hammered against my ribs. You've packed my things. Without my permission. Asterisk, we needed the room ready for Brenda. Tiffany said with a shrug, as if discussing changing the drapes. She's family, Eleanor. She deserves to be comfortable. Asterisk, and I'm not family. I looked at Brandon, begging him to be the man I raised. Brandon, I bought this house. I pay the property taxes. I pay the utilities. Asterisk, Brandon looked at his shoes. It's in our name now, Mom. You signed the transfer last year for tax purposes. Remember? Asterisk, I froze. I had. I had trusted them. I had signed the deed over to give them security, thinking I was securing my place in their lives. Asterisk, so you're kicking me out? I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief. On Thanksgiving. Asterisk, my mom will be here in 20 minutes. Tiffany checked her diamond watch, another gift from me. We don't want a scene. Your bags are on the porch. The Uber's already called. Please, just go quietly. You're upsetting the vibe. Asterisk, I looked at the trash bags on the front porch through the window. Black plastic garbage bags. My clothes. My dignity. Tossed out like yesteryear's trash. Asterisk, just then, the front door opened. A woman with bleached blonde hair and a tacky leopard print coat walked in without knocking. Brenda, asterisk, oh, is the old hag still here? Brenda asked loudly, dropping her suitcase on the hardwood floor. I thought you said the room would be ready. Asterisk, Tiffany rushed to hug her mother. She's just leaving, Mom. Don't worry. Asterisk, I looked at Brandon one last time. You're really going to let them do this? After everything I've done for you? Asterisk, Brandon turned his back to me. Just go, Mom. You're stressing Tiff out. Asterisk, something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap, like a bone breaking. It was a quiet, metallic click, like the safety coming off a loaded gun. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply straightened my blazer, picked up my purse, and walked to the door. Asterisk, enjoy the turkey. I said, my voice ice cold. I hope it was worth it. Asterisk, I stepped out onto the porch, picked up the garbage bags filled with my cashmere sweaters, and waited for the Uber as I sat in the back of that Honda Civic. Watching the house I paid for disappear in the rearview mirror, I dried my eyes. I wasn't going to the nursing home. I was going to the war room. Asterisk, I pulled out my phone. I didn't call a friend. I didn't call a therapist. I called my lawyer, Saul. Asterisk, Saul. It's Eleanor, I said, staring at the gray sky. I need you to pull the files on the Vance Trust and the conditional gifting clauses. Regarding the estate. Yes. Tonight, I don't care that it's Thanksgiving. I'm about to roast a turkey and I need the carving knife. The Marriott concierge looked at me like I was a bag lady when I walked into the lobby carrying 2 hefty trash bags. I didn't care. I slapped my black Amex Centurion card on the marble counter, the heavy metal one that clinks when it hits the surface sand, booked the presidential suite for a month. The attitude changed real quick. Right away, Mrs. Vance, he stammered. Money talks, and right now it was about to scream. Asterisk, once I was upstairs. Sipping a martini that cost more than Brenda's entire wardrobe, I opened my laptop. Saul was already on FaceTime, abandoning his own turkey dinner to handle my crisis. That's what a $1,000 hourly retainer gets you. Loyalty. Asterisk, Eleanor. Tell me you're joking, Saul said, wiping cranberry sauce from the corner of his mouth. They kicked you out. On Thanksgiving? After you paid off Brandon's student loans last month? Asterisk, I'm sitting in a hotel room with my life in garbage bags. Saul, I'm not joking. They moved Brenda in. They think they own the house because I signed those transfer papers last year. Asterisk, Saul chuckled, a dry, raspy sound that warmed my heart. They didn't read paragraph 14, section C, did they? Asterisk, Brandon never reads, I replied, staring at the city lights. He just signs where Tiffany points. Asterisk, the reversionary life estate clause, Saul recited from memory. The deed transferred to Brandon Vance is conditional upon the grantor. That's your retaining full residency rights and executive control of the property until death. Any attempt to evict, displace, or impede the grantor results in the immediate nullification of the transfer. The property reverts to the Vance Trust, which you control. Asterisk, exactly. I took a sip of the martini, but they don't know that yet. They think they're the kings of the castle. I want them to enjoy that feeling for exactly 12 more hours. Tomorrow is Black Friday. Tiffany lives for Black Friday. I want to hit them where it hurts most before I take the house back. Asterisk, the bank accounts. Saul asked. The bank accounts, I confirmed. I logged into the family trust portal. I had set up joint accounts for Brandon and Tiffany to run the household expenses. It was supposed to be for groceries, utilities, and the kids' tuition. But as I scrolled through the transaction history, my blood began to boil. Ulta Beauty, $400. Nordstrom, $1,200. Asterisk Liquor World, $600 dated yesterday. Asterisk Bavarian Motor Works. Lease payment for a car I explicitly told them not to get. Asterisk they weren't just living off me. They were bleeding me dry while smiling in my face. Tiffany had been treating my hard-earned empire like her personal piggy bank. And Brandon? My son was too weak to stop her. He was probably popping champagne with Brenda right now, toasting to their freedom. Asterisk Saul, I said, my voice steady. Initiate the insolvency protocol on the joint accounts. Freeze the assets. Cancel the supplemental cards. And flag the main checking account for fraud. Asterisk fraud. Saul raised an eyebrow. That's aggressive. L. Asterisk it is fraud. I snapped. They used my funds under the pretense of providing a home for me. That contract is broken. Therefore, every penny they spent since they decided to kick me out was theft. Lock it all down. Midnight tonight. Asterisk done, Saul said. Anything else? Asterisk yes. The utilities. The house is legally back in my name as of this moment due to the breach of contract, right? Asterisk. Technically, yes. The reversal is automatic based on the affidavit I'm filing right now. Asterisk good. Transfer the electric, water, and internet bills back to my personal master account. But don't pay them yet. I want to control the switch. Asterisk I hung up and sat back. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Brandon. Asterisk Mom. I hope the nursing home is okay. We'll drop off the rest of your boxes next week. Please don't make a scene or call us. We need time to settle Brenda in. Happy Thanksgiving. Asterisk I stared at the screen. No, I love you. No, I'm sorry. Just a cowardly text to ensure I stayed out of their hair. I didn't reply. I just forwarded the screenshot to Saul with the caption, Exhibit A, I barely slept that night. I was too busy watching the clock. At 4 a.m., the notifications started rolling in on my banking app. Asterisk transaction declined. Starbucks $14.50 asterisk transaction declined. Target $540 asterisk transaction declined. Best Buy $1,200 asterisk. Tiffany was up early for Black Friday shopping. She was trying to buy flat-screen TVs and designer makeup, probably gifts for her mother, using my money. And she was hitting a brick wall. Asterisk I imagined the scene. The cashier at Target scanning the items. The line of angry shoppers behind Tiffany. The card reader beeping that horrible ERR sound. Tiffany swiping again, sweating. Her fake tan looking orange under the fluorescent lights. Asterisk at 7 a.m. My phone rang. It was Brandon. I let it go to voicemail. Asterisk 7:05 a.m. Brandon again. Voicemail asterisk 7:10 a.m. Tiffany 7:15 a.m. Tiffany again. Finally, I picked up on the fifth call. I put on my best shaky old lady voice. Asterisk, hello. I rasped asterisk Eleanor. What the hell is going on? Tiffany screamed into the receiver. She sounded hysterical. I'm at the mall and all the cards are declining. Even the emergency one. I have a cart full of stuff and people are staring at me. Asterisk, oh, hello, Tiffany, I said calmly, dropping the act. Did you enjoy your turkey? Asterisk, fix this. She shrieked. Transfer money now. The bank says the accounts are frozen for fraud. Brandon is freaking out. Asterisk, well, that's strange, I said, examining my manicure. Usually, fraud alerts only happen when someone tries to use money that doesn't belong to them. Since I don't have a room in that house anymore, I figured I shouldn't be paying for the lifestyle inside of it. You wanted to be independent, Tiffany? Welcome to independence. Asterisk, you can't do this. She yelled. We have bills. My mom needs her medication. We have the mortgage. Asterisk correction, I said, my voice turning to steel. You don't have a mortgage. I have a mortgage. And as of this morning, based on the deed reverting to the trust, you are currently trespassing on my property. You have rent to pay, sweetie. And looking at your current credit score without my name attached to it, I'd say you can't afford it. Asterisk, there was a silence on the other end. A heavy, terrified silence. Asterisk, what do you mean rent? Brandon's voice came on the line. He must have snatched the phone. Mom, stop playing games. Turn the cards back on. Stiersk, the gravy train has derailed. Brandon, I said, I'm not playing games. I'm playing business. And you two just violated the contract. By the way, how is Brenda enjoying my suite? I hope she's comfortable because she's going to need her rest for packing. Asterisk, you're bluffing. Brandon scoffed, though he sounded unsure. You wouldn't evict your own son. Asterisk, watch me, I whispered. Oh, and Brandon, happy Black Friday. I hope it was a doorbuster. Asterisk, I hung up. This was just the appetizer. They thought a few declined cards were bad. They had no idea I was about to shut down their entire world. I picked up the landline in the hotel room and dialed the local power company. I had been friends with the CEO for 30 years. It was time to call in a favor. Jerry, darling, it's Eleanor. I need a favor. A big one. Remember that zoning issue I helped you bury in '98? It's time to dig it up. I was on the phone with the CEO of Kineticin Upstate Division. We went way back. He owed me, and unlike my son, Jerry knew the value of loyalty. Eleanor, for you? Anything? Jerry answered, his voice thick with cigar smoke. What do you need? The property on 42 Oakwood Drive. I need a service interruption. Immediate. Mark it as hazardous wiring investigation. Or account dispute. I don't care. Just kill the grid. That's your son's place. Jerry hesitated. It was my son's place. Now it's a squatting den for ungrateful leeches. Cut it, Jerry. I want them to feel the chill. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in my hotel suite, a glass of Chardonnay in hand, watching my iPad. I had access to the Ring security cameras and the internal Nest system. The house feed showed a cozy scene in the living room. Brenda was sprawled on my Italian leather sofa, her feet up on the coffee table, shoes still on, watching The Real Housewives. Tiffany was pacing, furiously texting, probably trying to figure out why her credit cards were essentially decorative plastic. Then it happened. The screen flickered, click. The living room plunged into darkness. I saw Brenda jump up, knocking over a Vase Ming vase. I noted with a sharp intake of breath. The ambient light from the TV vanished. The house was dead. I switched to the outdoor floodlight camera, which had a battery backup. I saw the streetlights were on, the neighbors' houses were glowing warmly. 42 Oakwood was a black hole in the middle of a festive neighborhood. My phone rang almost instantly. It was Brandon. I let it ring once, twice. Let him sweat, I answered on the fourth ring. Hello, Mom. The power is out, Brandon yelled. I could hear the panic in his voice. The whole house is dark. The heat is off. It's 30 degrees outside. Oh, that is unfortunate, I said, swirling my wine. Did you forget to pay the bill? Oh, wait. I pay the bill. And since I don't live there, you cut the power. He sounded incredulous. Are you insane? We have kids here? Leo and Mia are going to freeze. Don't you dare use my grandchildren as shields, I snapped, my voice dropping to a growl. You have a fireplace. You have coats. And Tiffany has enough hot air in her to heat a stadium. If you're cold, Brandon, go to a hotel. Oh, wait. You can't. Your cards are declined. This is illegal. I'll call the police. Tiffany screamed from the background. Call them, I challenged. Tell them you're trespassing on a property you no longer own, trying to utilities you don't pay for. See who they escort off the premises. I hung up, but I wasn't done. The cold was the first lesson. The second was mobility. I opened my laptop again and pulled up the leasing agreement for the BMW X5 Tiffany drove. It was a corporate lease under my company, Vance Development. Tiffany was listed as an authorized driver strictly for business-related travel. I'm pretty sure driving her mother to the casino didn't count as business. I dialed the fleet manager. Report the X5 at 42 Oakwood as stolen. Well, not stolen. Unauthorized possession. Revoke the key fob access remotely and send the recovery team. Now, back to the cameras. The show was just getting started. About 20 minutes later, a flatbed truck rolled up the driveway. The flashing yellow lights illuminated the dark house. I saw Brandon run out the front door, wrapped in a blanket, looking like a confused burrito. Tiffany followed, screaming at the driver. The driver, a burly guy who clearly didn't get paid enough to deal with suburban drama, ignored her. He hooked up the X5 because I had revoked the digital key. The car was a brick. They couldn't even start it to move it. You can't take that. My car seat is in there. Tiffany shrieked, banging on the window. Lady, talk to the leaseholder, the driver shouted back, winching the car up onto the bed. Paperwork says repo. I just drive the truck. I zoomed in on the video feed. Brenda was standing in the doorway, shivering in her leopard print coat, holding a flashlight. She looked miserable. Good, I sent a text to Brandon. The Uber to the homeless shelter is cheaper than the BMW payment. Choose wisely. A moment later, my phone pinged. A notification from the smart lock on the front door. Access code. Brandon entered. Then another notification immediately after. Access denied. Code disabled. I laughed out loud. I had changed the master codes while they were arguing with the tow truck driver. They were locked out. In the cold. With the power off dot, my phone lit up. Brandon again. Please. He was crying now. Actual tears. The door won't open. We're locked out. It's freezing. Tiffany is hysterical. Brenda is complaining about her knees. Just let us in. I thought you needed space, Brandon. I thought you wanted me to move on. I'm just helping you move on, literally. I'm sorry. He sobbed. I'm sorry about the room. I'm sorry about Thanksgiving. We'll fix it. Just turn the heat back on. Sorry doesn't sign checks, Brandon. And sorry doesn't put my name back on the deed you tried to steal, I said coldly. You want back inside? You have one option. Put Brenda in an Uber. Send her back to wherever she crawled out of. Then, and only then, will I unlock the door for you and the kids. I can't do that. Tiffany will kill me. Then freeze, I said. You have 5 minutes before I call child protective services and tell them you're keeping my grandchildren in an unheated house during a winter storm. I'll have temporary custody by midnight. Clock's ticking. I watched the screen. Brandon lowered the phone, his face pale in the moonlight. He turned to Tiffany and Brenda. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw Tiffany's jaw drop. She shoved him. He shoved her back. The alliance was crumbling. The rats were turning on each other. I took a sip of my wine. Checkmate, sweetie, I whispered to the screen. But I knew this wasn't over. Tiffany was a snake, and snakes bite when they're cornered. I needed to be ready for the venom. I picked up my phone and called Saul. Draft the eviction papers, I told him, and Saul. Hire private security. I have a feeling they're going to try to break a window. You think a piece of landscaping slate is going to solve your problems, Tiffany? Think again. Asterisk, I watched on the high-definition feed of my iPad as my daughter-in-law, shivering in her heels and clutching her designer shawl, bent down and picked up a heavy gray rock from the garden lining. Brandon was busy arguing with the Uber driver who had just pulled up, refusing the ride because Brenda had apparently insulted his car so he didn't see his wife winding up to pitch a fastball through my living room bay window. Asterisk, don't do it. Tiff, I said into the microphone of my phone, my voice booming out of the Ring doorbell speaker like the voice of God. That glass is custom, double-paned, impact-resistant. The rock will bounce back and hit you in that Botoxed forehead. Plus, vandalism is a felony. Asterisk, Tiffany froze. The rock held high over her head. She looked at the camera, her mascara running down her face, looking like a deranged raccoon. Open the door, you old witch! My mother is freezing. Asterisk, your mother is the reason you're freezing, I replied calmly. The deal stands. Brenda leaves, the door opens. You have 30 seconds before I call the police and report an attempted break-in. And Tiffany. I have the video saved. Asterisk. She screamed a primal, frustration-filled sound and threw the rock into the bushes. At that exact moment, a black SUV rolled silently to the curb behind the tow truck that was still idling. 2 men in dark suits stepped out. They weren't cops. They were better. They were private security from Trident Protection, a firm I used for my construction sites. Asterisk double quotes Mrs. Vance sent us, the lead officer said, crossing his arms. He was the size of a vending machine. She's concerned about the safety of the children. We're here to escort the grandmother off the premises and ensure no property damage occurs. Asterisk Brandon looked at the security team, then at his wife, and finally at his mother-in-law. Brenda was sitting on her suitcase on the porch, sobbing dramatically about how she was being persecuted. Asterisk, Mom, just go. Brandon finally snapped at Brenda. Please, I can't do this. The kids are crying in the backyard. Asterisk, you're kicking me out. For her. Brenda shrieked, pointing at the camera. Asterisk, I'm kicking you out because I want to sleep indoors. Brandon yelled back. Get in the damn Uber. Asterisk, it took another 10 minutes of screaming, crying, and Tiffany trying to physically block the car door, but eventually, Brenda was loaded into a second Uber I graciously hailed for them remotely. As the taillights faded down the street, I tapped the unlock button on my app. Asterisk, the smart lock chirped. The heavy oak door swung open. Asterisk, get the kids inside. I spoke through the doorbell one last time. Power stays off for another hour. Think about what you've done while you sit in the dark. I'll see you tomorrow. Asterisk, I closed my laptop, my heart racing. It wasn't adrenaline. It was satisfaction. But I knew the war wasn't over. Tiffany was the type to hold a grudge, and she was desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things. Asterisk, I slept like a baby in my king-sized hotel bed. The next morning, I dressed for battle, a sharp navy blazer, pearls, and my lucky heels. I stopped for a latte and drove over to the house at 9 a.m. sharp. Asterisk, the scene inside was pathetic. The house was freezing. I had turned the power back on at 4 a.m., but the large colonial took time to heat up. Brandon was asleep on the couch, wrapped in 3 duvets. Tiffany was sitting at the kitchen island, staring blankly at a cup of coffee made with tap water because the filtration system was still offline. Asterisk, good morning, I chirped, walking in and dropping my keys on the counter with a loud clatter. Lovely day for a fresh start, isn't it? Asterisk, Tiffany looked up slowly. Her eyes were puffy, but the venom was still there. You're a monster. You humiliated my mother. You traumatized your grandchildren. Asterisk, I protected my assets. I corrected her, pouring myself a cup of coffee from the thermos I brought. And as for the kids, I just checked on them. They're playing video games in the den. They seem fine. You, on the other hand, look terrible. Asterisk, we're suing you, Tiffany spat. I spoke to a lawyer this morning. Squatters' rights. Constructive eviction. Emotional distress. We're going to take you for everything you have. Asterisk, I laughed. I couldn't help it. It started as a chuckle and ended as a full belly laugh. Tiffany, honey, you can't afford a lawyer. Your accounts are frozen. Your credit is shot. And any lawyer who looks at the deed transfer fraud you attempted will laugh you out of their office. Asterisk, it wasn't fraud. You signed it. Brandon sat up, looking disheveled. Asterisk, I signed a conditional deed, I said, pulling a document from my purse and slamming it on the granite countertop. Condition 1, I live here. Condition 2, I maintain control of finances. You broke both. Saul filed the revocation this morning. As of 8:30 a.m., this house is 100% mine again. You are guests, and guests can be asked to leave. Asterisk Brandon put his head in his hands. Mom, what do you want? Do you want us to beg? Fine. I'm begging. We messed up. We're sorry. Asterisk, I don't want your apology, Brandon. It's cheap, I said, looking around the kitchen. I want restitution. You spent $45,000 of my money in 3 months. I want it back. Asterisk, we don't have that kind of money. Tiffany yelled. Asterisk, I know. I smiled tightly. That's why I'm selling the house. Asterisk, the silence in the room was deafening. Even the refrigerator seemed to stop humming. Asterisk, what? Brandon whispered. This is our home. The kids grew up here. Asterisk, no. This is my asset, I said coldly. And since it's costing me money and heartache, I'm liquidating it. I've already contacted the realtor. She'll be here in an hour to take photos. You have 48 hours to pack your personal belongings. Not the furniture, not the electronics, just your clothes and toys. Asterisk, you can't do this. Tiffany lunged across the table, grabbing my wrist. Her grip was tight, her nails digging into my skin. I will not let you destroy my family. Asterisk, I looked at her hand on my wrist, then up at her eyes. Tiffany, if you don't let go of me in 2 seconds, I will add assault on an elderly person to the list of charges I'm filing. And unlike the power company, the police don't give grace periods. She released me as if I were made of fire. 48 hours, I repeated, smoothing my blazer. But don't worry, I'm not heartless. I found you a new place to live. It's a 2-bedroom apartment near the airport. I paid the first month's rent. Consider it a parting gift. Asterisk, I turned to leave, but stopped at the door. Oh, and Brandon. The realtor mentioned the market is hot. I might even make a profit. Maybe I'll take a cruise. Asterisk. I walked out to my car feeling the adrenaline dump. I had them on the ropes. I was stripping them of their unearned luxury piece by piece. But as I sat in the driver's seat, my phone buzzed. An email from Saul. The subject line was in all caps, urgent court order. Asterisk, my stomach dropped. I opened the attachment. Tiffany hadn't just called a lawyer. She had called legal aid. And they had filed an emergency injunction claiming I was senile and a danger to myself and others, petitioning for immediate power of attorney over me. Asterisk, they weren't just trying to keep the house anymore. They were trying to have me committed. They wanted to play the dementia card. Fine, I'll show them a memory that never forgets a grudge. Asterisk, I sat in my car staring at the legal PDF on my phone. Petition for emergency guardianship. They were claiming I was suffering from acute cognitive decline and paranoid delusions. They cited my cutting the power and the imaginary theft of funds as proof that I had lost my grip on reality. It was a Hail Mary pass, a desperate play by 2 people who knew they were drowning and decided to try and drown the lifeguard instead. Asterisk, I called Saul immediately. Asterisk, Eleanor, listen to me. Saul's voice was tense. Because they filed an emergency motion alleging immediate danger. The judge has put a temporary freeze on the house sale. A court-appointed evaluator is coming to 42 Oakwood in 2 hours. If you fail this evaluation, they get temporary control of your finances and medical decisions until the hearing next week. Asterisk, so if I flunk a quiz, Tiffany gets my checkbook. I asked, my voice dangerously low. Asterisk, essentially, yes. You need to be calm. Do not lose your temper. That's what they want. They want you to scream. Asterisk, I won't scream. Saul, I said, starting the engine. I'm going to sing. Asterisk, I drove back to the house, stopping first at a print shop. I had a portfolio to assemble. When I walked through the front door of my house, the atmosphere was thick enough to choke a horse. Tiffany was wearing a modest cardigan, something I'd never seen her wear. I'd set out tea and cookies. She was setting the stage. She was playing the role of the concerned caretaker. Brandon was pacing, looking like he was about to vomit. Asterisk, Mom, you're here, Brandon said, his voice trembling. Please, just sit down. Mr. Sterling will be here any minute. We just want what's best for you. Asterisk saved the script for the evaluator. Brandon, I said, bypassing the living room to sit at the head of the dining table. I opened my laptop and placed a thick manila folder next to it. And Tiffany, darling, you missed a spot on the floor. If you're going to pretend to run this household, try using a broom. The doorbell rang before she could snap back. Mr. Sterling was a short, bespectacled man with a clipboard and a face that had seen too much family drama. He sat opposite me. Tiffany and Brandon sat on the couch holding hands like a tragic couple. Asterisk Mrs. Vance, Sterling began, his voice soft. The way you talk to a toddler or a bomb. Your son and daughter-in-law have expressed concern about your recent behavior. They claim you disconnected essential utilities and made unfounded accusations of theft. Asterisk, he means I turned off the lights in a house I own because the tenants weren't paying rent. I corrected him, folding my hands. And the theft isn't unfounded. It's documented. Asterisk, she thinks we're stealing from her. Tiffany interjected, wiping a fake tear. She forgets things. Mr. Sterling, she gave us permission to use the cards, and then she forgot. She gets so aggressive. We're scared for her safety. Asterisk, I see. Sterling scribbled something down. Mrs. Vance, do you know what year it is? Asterisk, it is 2025. I said comfortably. I know who the president is. I know that the NASDAQ is down 40 points today. And I know that my daughter-in-law spent $1,200 at Sephora on November 24th at 2:14 p.m. using a card ending in 4098. I slid the bank statement across the table to him. This is not forgetting. Mr. Sterling, this is accounting. I gave them a budget for household expenses. They treated my retirement fund like a loot box. Sterling picked up the paper, his eyebrows raising. That's a fabrication. Tiffany stood up, her mask slipping. She doctored those. She's paranoid. She thinks everyone is out to get her. Asterisk, sit down, Mrs. Vance, Sterling said firmly to Tiffany. He looked back at me. Eleanor, why did you have the car towed? Asterisk, because the lease stipulates authorized drivers only. When they breached the contract by attempting to evict me from my own home. Their authorization was revoked. I was simply returning corporate property to the fleet. I slid the lease agreement over. Clause 4, Section B. Asterisk, I was calm. I was precise. I was the CEO of Vance Development, and this dining table was my boardroom. Asterisk, Tiffany was vibrating with rage. She realized her poor senile grandma narrative was hitting a brick wall of logic and paperwork. Asterisk, she's lying. Tiffany shrieked, pointing a manicured finger at me. She's a vindictive old witch who hates that her son loves me more than her. She's trying to ruin us because she's lonely and miserable. Tiffany, stop, Brandon whispered, pulling on her arm. No. Tiffany pulled away, grabbing a ceramic coaster and hurling it at the wall. It shattered inches from Mr. Sterling's head. She's the crazy one. Look at her. She's smirking. She planned this. Asterisk, I didn't flinch. I didn't move. I just looked at Mr. Sterling, who was now brushing ceramic dust off his shoulder. Asterisk, Mr. Sterling, I said softly. I believe you can see where the aggression and instability in this household truly resides. I am a 68-year-old woman recovering from hip surgery. Do I look like the danger here? Asterisk, Sterling closed his notebook. He stood up slowly, looking at Tiffany with a mixture of pity and professional concern. Asterisk, I think I've seen enough, Sterling said. Mrs. Vance, Eleanor, you seem perfectly oriented and cogent. Your son and daughter-in-law, however, seem to be under significant stress. Asterisk, does this mean the injunction is lifted? I asked. Asterisk, I will be recommending the immediate dismissal of the guardianship petition, Sterling confirmed. And I will be filing a report regarding the environment here. It seems volatile. Asterisk, Tiffany gasped, realizing what she had done. She had walked right into the trap. She tried to claim I was the monster. But she was the one baring her teeth. Asterisk, as Sterling walked to the door. I stood up to escort him. Thank you for your time, Mr. Sterling. Asterisk, when the door closed, I turned back to them. The silence was absolute. Brandon was head in hands. Tiffany was staring at the wall where the coaster had hit. You missed, I said to her. My phone buzzed. It was an email from my forensic accountant, a guy I hired the night of the blackout. I hadn't told anyone about him. Not even Saul. He had been digging into the business expenses. Tiffany had been claiming for her side hustle an interior design LLC she supposedly ran. Asterisk, I opened the attachment. My eyes widened. Asterisk. Oh, I whispered, a genuine smile spreading across my face. Oh, this is rich. Asterisk, what now? Brandon asked, sounding defeated. Asterisk, I was wondering where the rest of the money went, I said, tapping my screen. The math wasn't adding up. The clothes and makeup were expensive, sure, but there was about 50 grand missing from the last 2 years. I found it. Asterisk, I looked at Tiffany. She went pale, paler than the time the power went out. Asterisk, online poker, Tiffany. I tutted, and ... Oh my God, you took out a second mortgage on my guest cottage, the one that has a separate deed. You forged my signature to get a loan from a predatory lender to cover your gambling debts. Asterisk, Tiffany dropped into a chair. She looked like a ghost. Asterisk, that's a felony, sweetie, I said, my voice dripping with ice. That's not a civil dispute. That's federal wire fraud and forgery. The house sale is the least of your problems now. Asterisk, Mom, please, Brandon begged, tears streaming down his face. She has a problem. We can get her help. Don't call the police. Asterisk. I looked at my son, the boy I raised, the man who handed me trash bags on Thanksgiving. Asterisk, I'm not calling the police. Brandon, I said, walking toward the stairs to pack the last of my things properly. I'm calling the FBI, the lender she used. They're under investigation for money laundering, and I think the feds would love to see these loan documents. I paused on the landing. You have until the sun goes down, I said. Run. The sunset was beautiful that evening. The sky was a bruised purple and angry orange, looking exactly like the burning bridges of my son's marriage. I stood on the porch of the house I had built, sipping a fresh cup of tea, watching the chaotic end of the Vance family dynasty, or at least Brandon and Tiffany's branch of it. They hadn't managed to run fast enough. Inside, the house was a whirlwind of panic. I could hear suitcases being zipped violently, and Tiffany screaming at Brandon to grab the jewelry she didn't know yet that I had already secured the family heirlooms in a safe deposit box 3 days ago. She was stuffing her bags with clothes that she would likely be trading for an orange jumpsuit very soon. Asterisk, at 5:45 p.m. Just 15 minutes before my deadline, Brandon dragged 2 large suitcases out the front door. He looked 10 years older than he had on Thanksgiving. His eyes were hollow. He stopped when he saw me dropping the bags on the pavement. Asterisk, we're leaving, he croaked. Are you happy? Asterisk, happiness has nothing to do with it, Brandon, I said, leaning against the railing. This is about balance. You tried to tip the scales, and they crushed you. Where are you going? Asterisk, a motel, he muttered, looking at the ground. Until I can find a job. The bank froze my personal account too because my name was on the joint file with Tiffany. Asterisk. Guilt by association, I nodded. The financial world is unforgiving. Asterisk, just then, Tiffany burst out of the house, dragging a Louis Vuitton trunk and gripping Leo's hand. Mia was trailing behind, clutching her teddy bear, looking terrified. Asterisk, let's go. Brandon. Stop talking to her. Tiffany yelled, her eyes darting around the street like a trapped animal. She knew the walls were closing in. She yanked Leo toward the car, the rental Kia they had managed to get after the BMW was towed. Asterisk, wait. I said, my voice cutting through the cool air like a knife. Asterisk, I walked down the steps. The children stay. Asterisk. Tiffany laughed, a manic, high-pitched sound. You're crazy. They're my kids. We're leaving. Asterisk, you're leaving. I corrected her. But you're not going to a motel? You're going to the precinct. Look down the street. Asterisk, Tiffany froze. Brandon turned around. Asterisk, silent and menacing. 2 unmarked sedans had blocked the end of the driveway. Behind them, a standard patrol car idled, its lights flashing silently. The FBI doesn't usually make a scene unless they have to. But with the amount of money Tiffany had laundered through that fraudulent mortgage, they weren't taking chances. Asterisk, I told you I contacted the lender, I said softly to Brandon. They cooperated immediately to avoid prosecution. They sent over the files. Tiffany didn't just forge my signature on the mortgage, Brandon. She used your social security number to open the shell accounts for the gambling debts. She stole your identity too. Asterisk Brandon looked at his wife with horror. You did what? Asterisk, he's lying. She's lying. Tiffany screamed, backing up, pulling Leo with her. It's a setup. Asterisk, the agents stepped out of the cars. They were calm, professional, and terrifyingly efficient. Tiffany Vance. One of them called out, asterisk, Tiffany dropped the suitcase. She looked at the woods behind the house, considering a run for it. But she was wearing Louboutins, and federal agents are trained to catch people in sneakers. She slumped, the fight draining out of her instantly. Asterisk Brandon, do something. She wailed as the agents approached. Asterisk Brandon didn't move. He stood there, staring at the woman he had kicked his mother out for. The woman who had ruined his credit, stolen his identity, and tried to destroy his family. Asterisk, I can't, Brandon whispered. He walked over to the kids, gently prying Leo's hand from Tiffany's grip. He picked up Mia. He walked them over to where I was standing. Go to Grandma, he choked out, asterisk, as they cuffed Tiffany and read her write something about wire fraud. Bank fraud and identity theft. I didn't feel glee. I felt a grim sense of completion. The cancer had been cut out. Asterisk Tiffany was shoved into the back of the patrol car. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Brandon. She just stared straight ahead. Her life of entitlement officially over. Asterisk the agents took a statement from Brandon, who was cooperative but broken. When they left, the silence that fell over the neighborhood was heavy. Asterisk Mom, Brandon said, turning to me. He looked like a lost little boy. I have nowhere to go. I have no money. She spent it all. Asterisk, I looked at him. I loved him, but I couldn't enable him. Not anymore. Asterisk, you have a college degree, Brandon. And you have 2 strong hands, I said firmly. The apartment near the airport is paid up for a month. Go there, get a job, fix your mess, asterisk, and the kids. Asterisk, the kids stay with me, I said, putting my arms around Leo and Mia. I've already spoken to Saul. We filed for emergency temporary custody given the arrest and your homelessness. You can visit them on weekends, provided you are sober and employed. Asterisk Brandon nodded, tears streaming down his face. He knew he didn't have a choice. He grabbed his suitcase, looked at the house one last time, and began the long walk down the driveway to call a cab. Asterisk 3 months later. Asterisk I sat on the balcony of my new penthouse in Florida, the ocean breeze ruffling the pages of my book. The house on Oakwood Drive sold for $200,000 over the asking price bidding war. Very exciting. I put the profit into a trust fund for Leo and Mia. Asterisk Brandon is working as a shift manager at a logistics company. It's humble work, but honest. He visits the kids every Sunday. He's quieter now, more respectful. He's learning the value of $1 the hard way. Asterisk Tiffany is awaiting trial. Saul tells me she's trying to plead insanity, but the paper trail of her calculated fraud says otherwise. She faces 5 to 10 years. Brenda, her mother, tried to sue me for emotional distress. But Saul sent her a cease and desist letter so terrifying she moved 2 states away. Asterisk, I took a sip of my iced tea and looked at my phone. A text from Brandon. Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you for keeping the kids safe. I'm sorry, asterisk, I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Asterisk, I put the phone down and watched the waves crash against the shore. They thought I was just a sweet old lady they could put out to pasture. They forgot that I was the one who built the fence. Asterisk, if there's one lesson I hope you take from my story, it's this. Respect your elders. We've survived things you can't even imagine. And we know exactly where the bodies are buried, mostly because we dug the holes, asterisk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like mine. You never know when you might need a few tips from a grandmother who knows how to fight back.